Good morning America, today the 15th of January 2026 news. The yen hovered near 18-month lows as markets stayed wary of intervention before Japan's election. It steadied after official warnings against sharp depreciation, while U.S. officials also called for measures to curb excessive currency volatility. Taiwan said more U.S. arms sales are coming, with 4 deals pending after a record $11 billion package. The United States remains Taiwan's key arms supplier, while China responded with major military drills around the island. Venezuelan opposition leader and 2025 Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Corina Machado will meet U.S. President Donald Trump on Thursday at the White House. This is their first face-to-face since the U.S. ousted Nicolas Maduro from power. In a 30-minute Oval Office interview, President Donald Trump brushed aside criticism from the public, business leaders and Republicans, insisting on governing his own way. He dismissed concerns over Greenland, a probe into Fed Chair Jerome Powell, and the economy. The London Metal Exchange recorded record trading volumes last year, rebounding strongly from the nickel crisis 4 years ago. Owned by Hong Kong exchanges, the LME has benefited from physical market volatility driven during U.S. President Donald Trump's current term. TSMC reported a record 35% jump in fourth-quarter profit, beating forecasts on strong AI demand. The chipmaker forecast up to 40% first-quarter revenue growth to $35.8 billion and plans to raise 2026 capital spending to as much as $56 billion. Oil prices fell from multi-month highs and gold eased from record levels after President Donald Trump soothed fears of U.S. military action against Iran. Asian markets saw extended tech sell-offs as investors rotated out of chip and AI stocks. Gold prices slipped as investors booked profits after hitting a record high. Softer comments from U.S. President Donald Trump on the Federal Reserve Chair and Iran reduced safe haven demand, pushing spot gold down 0.3% to $4,608.77 per ounce. President Donald Trump said the U.S. needs Greenland and questioned Denmark's ability to protect it, while expressing confidence that a solution will emerge. His remarks followed talks with Danish and Greenlandic officials, highlighting deep disagreements over the island's future governance. A Venezuelan man in Minneapolis was shot in the leg by a U.S. immigration agent during a targeted traffic stop after he fled and resisted arrest. Authorities say the agent fired in self-defense amid a struggle. China welcomed Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney's visit to Beijing, calling it pivotal for recalibrating ties after months of re-engagement. Top diplomat Wang Yi made the remarks during talks with Canadian counterpart Anita Anand, part of Carney's delegation. China is planning rules to limit how many advanced AI chips local companies can buy from foreign makers like Nvidia. The government aims to regulate total purchase volumes, allowing some sales rather than imposing an outright ban, Nikkei Asia reported. Trump-backed Senate Republicans blocked a war powers resolution that would have barred him from further military action in Venezuela without Congress's approval. Vice President J.D. Vance broke the 51-50 tie after GOP pressure flipped key senators against the measure. The Trump administration is pausing immigrant visa processing for applicants from 75 countries, including nations in Latin America, the Balkans, South Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and the Caribbean. The suspension, part of a stricter immigration crackdown, begins January 21. South Korea's Industry Minister Kim Young-kwon said the government will monitor U.S. tariffs on AI semiconductor chips to reduce impact on local industries. Officials met with domestic semiconductor companies to address the 25% tariff imposed by the White House. Gulf stock markets opened mixed Thursday as geopolitical tensions weighed on sentiment. The U.S. is withdrawing some personnel from Middle East bases after Iran warned it would target U.S. sites if Washington launches strikes, heightening regional uncertainty. India's merchandise trade deficit was $25.04 billion in December, below economists' $27 billion estimate, up slightly from November's $24.53 billion deficit, according to Reuters calculations based on government export and import data released Thursday, showing moderated trade gap growth. A U.S. immigration agent shot and wounded a Venezuelan man in the leg during a targeted traffic stop in North Minneapolis on Wednesday after the man fled, resisted arrest and struggled with the officer. Two others also allegedly attacked the agent, prompting the defensive shot. The man's injuries are non-life-threatening and he was hospitalized. French President Emmanuel Macron held an emergency defense meeting over U.S. President Donald Trump's Greenland ambitions and Iran protests. He said French troops were already heading to Greenland to join military exercises organized by Denmark and the territory's authorities. Pope Leo condemned the use of military force in diplomacy during a fiery foreign policy speech, calling for dialogue over war and urging protection of human rights in Venezuela. He warned that war is returning and criticized weakened international institutions amid global conflicts. Glencore shares jumped over 10% after talks with Rio Tinto about a potential takeover that could form the world's largest mining group, valued near $207 billion. Rio Tinto shares fell up to 3% amid investor concerns over overpaying. Huge protests in Iran have energized exiled opposition groups, but deep divisions persist. A long-standing split between monarchists backing Reza Pahlavi and the leftist Mujahedin-e-Khalq continues to weaken unity, spilling into online disputes and overseas protests.